Dr. Omer was doing in Pakistan. So we talked and at the conference, and Dr. Omer said, well, why don't you come to Pakistan? And I said to myself, well, why not? So in January of 2020, I was very honored to go to the University of the Punjab in Lahore. I flew out of Atlanta, and I was a visiting professor. I taught almost every day. I trained social workers for a couple of days at a welfare complex. I had the opportunity also to speak to students and other faculties besides social work. I spoke to undergraduate, graduate students, doctoral students. So it was a phenomenal experience. And the person who's missing today, Dr. Tahira Jabeen, is also a member of the faculty at the University of the Punjab. And unfortunately, the internet service is cut off, so there's nothing we can do. I have been continuously collaborating with Dr. Omer and Dr. Tahira in fact, the presentation today is based on an article submitted to International Social Work. It's ready to be published. They're sitting on it, so it should be out. And also, I have collaborated with, for example, I was invited by Dr. Omer to a conference virtual at the University of the Punjab. And we just finished a grant together on internationalizing social work through our university and the University of the Punjab using a social entrepreneurship curriculum model. So we're very excited, and I'm very honored that we have Dr. Omer here, and we have Dr. Tahira Jabeen's presentation, and I think you really will get a lot out of this. Dr. Omer is a faculty member there for many, many years and has enormous experience and enormous knowledge of Pakistan. And I hope that you ask questions. Now, one of the things that was asked when we submitted our abstract was that we put child sexual abuse in global context. So we went ahead and I did that part. And Dr. Omer is going to talk about the context of the country of Pakistan, because typically, I can say for myself and my students, Dr. Omer has actually talked to my students about Pakistan. We don't really know what is going on the ground. Like this morning, we were talking about, before we got on, about what is going on in Pakistan in reference to a small group of people. And again, I only read the newspaper. I mean, I read the internet. It's like this terrible thing is going on. And then, you know, Dr. Omer grounds me that this is just a couple of people that are actually creating chaos in the situation. So you are fortunate. Please ask questions. This is a unique opportunity to learn about how child sexual abuse is dealt with in Pakistan, and also to learn about social work in Pakistan. It is a fascinating, subject, and you can learn a lot here today. So with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint. And we are going to begin. So So what I'm going to talk about is a global perspective on child sexual abuse. And I know that all of us as social workers have probably taken a child welfare course, or maybe we've actually taken a course that actually has focused on child sexual abuse. And this is a worldwide problem. This is a problem that is in many countries. And it is a very serious problem here in the United States. And I know that some of our speakers have talked about things globally. They've talked about the United Nations, which is very involved in developed and developing countries. And this is a major problem. Child sexual abuse is a major problem according to UNICEF. Although one of the things that is also going to come out in the presentation and the article we wrote on Pakistan is that we're not really sure of the exact number of cases that actually occur every year. It seems evident that the prevalence rates are higher for young ladies. And the estimates from UNICEF is that 1 in 20 young ladies age 15 to 19 have had a forced sexual experience of sexual assault, which amounts to about 13 million people. So the majority of the perpetrators are male, and the majority of the victims are considered to be female. One of the things that is important when we talk about this global problem is that the culture defines, and we've talked a lot in the workshops, I've been to many, many workshops, we talk a lot about culture. And the issue is shame and guilt over the situation. So we need to look at this for us as social workers in working on this problem, that this is an issue. So here are some factual information. And I got the information, I have the resources at the end. And if anybody would like to get the PowerPoint, I'm sure they can contact the conference or contact myself. But these are some facts about global child sexual abuse. Number one, child sexual abuse is a problem in developed and developing countries. That's important to note. Number two, there are issues of knowing what the prevalence rates are for child sexual abuse. Number three, you are going to find in the presentation today about Pakistan that there are different legal responses to child sexual abuse. When I was in Nicaragua a number of years ago, I was doing a study of social service agencies in Leon, and they had issues around the legal protection of children and people being honest about this. This is similar in many countries. Another issue is that there are various systems of prevention. Some systems are stronger, some systems are very weak. Some countries invest a lot of money in prevention and treatment of child sexual abuse. The other thing to note, which will really come out today, is that there are different cultural norms around sexual abuse in different countries. And again, agencies will respond differently to child sexual abuse. So as I said, there is a United Nations Convention on the Rights of Children. And we're going to talk about that today. But the question is that many countries are challenged to provide effective services for the children and families. So what I did was, again, I'm not a global specialist on, on child sexual abuse, but I kind of looked on the internet and more up-to-date stuff. There are some effective models internationally where child sexual abuse is dealt with in an effective manner. And there was one program in Africa of a one-stop service where you get all the services, and people know that if there is a issue with child sexual abuse, then essentially you can get all the services in that area. So one of the concerns, which I'm sure all of you are very much aware, is that child sexual abuse is actually occurring on the internet. And that's of major concern because you can reach more and more of the population. So it is now a conduit for child predators. The internet also can be used for sex trafficking, and there is a dramatic increase of child sex trafficking. So if you look at the literature, you're going to look at this, it's called INSPIRE, and this is supported by the World Health Organization and 10 other countries. And these are areas where there is a sense that child sexual abuse needs to be addressed. It addresses harmful values which target children. Those are the norms. There is a need to make environments safe. There is targeting parent and caregiver supports. Strengthen economic status of families. Provide effective counseling services. Increase child's knowledge of sexual abuse and exploitation. Dr. Omer is going to talk a bit about how the school system in Pakistan has made an effort to really work with the kids. The problem in Pakistan, though, is that many children are not in school, so it creates issues, and the underreporting of child sexual abuse. Okay, so there are different rankings of where things are problematic. There's a report Out of the Shadows, and it's interesting that some of the countries in the bottom quartile are countries that are relatively developed, such as China, Argentina, and Russia. Okay, so this is important to note. So what I did is because we're going to talk about Pakistan today, I picked out a couple of articles and one was China, and one was Ethiopia. And this article, when we did our article to international social work, it was recommended that we take a look at this article and help us to think about, what is going on in the world. And these authors, I don't know how to pronounce it, Z and Miller, did an article, and the rates are pretty high. There was a meta-analysis of 27 studies. 15.3% of Chinese females and 13.8% of males reported situations of child sexual abuse in mainland China. One of the issues in China is that child sexual abuse is a taboo and there is underreporting. You're going to hear the same thing about Pakistan. You hear the same thing about many countries. And even though child sexual abuse is against the law, there is really problems about lack of mandated reporting. So, and you're going to hear these issues also when we talk about Pakistan. The issue in Chinese society is that there is secrecy, and this creates a problem. This is an article on Ethiopia. Again, we see similar problems. Child sexual abuse is underreported in sub-Saharan countries, including Ethiopia. There have been some legal efforts. The prevalence rate is not clear at this point. And in a study of Ethiopia, it found that the prevalence of child sexual abuse was rather high. So we're going to move on to Dr. Omer, who is going to do two things. She is going to put the presentation on Pakistan within a country context. And secondarily, she is also going to do Dr. Tahira's part, which is just wonderful that that is being done. And Dr. Omer is being gracious enough to do it. And I will come up with concluding remarks. Okay? Yeah. So, Dr. Omer, do you want to go ahead and go forth? And yes. I will try not to have the next thing and just move the slide. So right. Thank you so much for joining us today from Lahore, Pakistan.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Dr. Granich, for the wonderful introduction regarding child sexual abuse. And we all have to understand one thing, that it is a worldwide phenomena. It is not restricted to any country. It is happening in most part of the country, or most part of the globe, or probably in all the countries. But what differ is the ratios. What differ is the mechanism through which countries are dealing with this phenomena. So before I straightly move towards the child sexual abuse cases in Pakistan and the mechanism the country is dealing, I would like to give a brief introduction about Pakistan, because the Western world, many of you must be hearing me, may not know about the country. So here is a brief introduction. One thing that make us different is the population. We are situated in the south part of the Asia, and we are currently the fifth largest populated country of the world. So it is a huge country with 208.57 million people. We also exist in an area which is very ancient, which has a very strong history. And for example, we have ancient sites which are 8,500 years old. So Pakistan is situated in a place which is quite ancient and which is known by many scholars. All right, this is the map of Pakistan. This is we need to understand before I move towards the neighbors of the Pakistan. Pakistan has one federal state and then we have four provinces, and outside the map there are some also independent territories. We call it territories, and we do share. Can I have a next slide or yeah? Uh, Pakistan has a strategic important in terms. Pakistan share significant. Pakistan share its border with some significant countries of the world. For example, you must all be knowing Afghanistan, which has been known to the world for the unrest it has created for the past many centuries. Then Pakistan is a neighbor of India, which is the second largest populated country of the world. Pakistan is a neighbor of China, which is the largest populated country of the world, and Pakistan do share important corridors. It is a country which has land. It has mountain ranges, deserts, coastal belts. I would like to share the second highest peak of the world, which is known as K2, that also exists in Pakistan. In terms of the administrative divisions, Pakistan has four provinces and one federal state. The federal state is there, and they take care of the significant issues like the foreign policy and defense of the country. However, we have four provinces which have been given the powers to take care of the education and health of their particular provinces. So federal state is there to look after the four provinces. However, all these four provinces, they do have the right, they do have the powers to take care of health, education, and some other social welfare affairs of the provinces. Next slide, Dr. Stephen. As I was telling you, despite of the fact that Pakistan is an important corridor of the world, it does have natural resources. It is located in an important geographical location. However, what makes us unfortunate is the current situation regarding the human development in Pakistan. You can see, as per the report of UNDP, Pakistan stood at 154th position out of 189 countries. So far, the HDI, Human Development Index, is concerned. And of course, it includes the situation among women and children and underprivileged section of the society. So that makes Pakistan, and when we say it is, Pakistan has a good geographical location, it has a number of resources, but when we look at such reports and we look at such indicator, that makes Pakistan quite an underdeveloped country rather a developing country. Well, talking about the population of Pakistan, as it is a huge population, and it is also projected that Pakistan will be the third largest populated country of the world by 2050 if the current growth rate continues. Currently, we have 52% of population which is comprised of the women. And one very interesting fact that makes Pakistan population um, quite interesting as well, that 39% of the population of Pakistan is under 18. So there you can imagine we have young lot, the population is comprised of young lot, and this made it crucial for the government, for the state to intervene and introduce policies which champion the right of children. Next, Dr. Stephen, please. If I, with the help of the reliable resources, These are some of the significant facts about children, because after that I'm going to straight move towards the child abuse situation in Pakistan. But these figures would help you to understand why child abuse in Pakistan is pretty much at a higher side, and why there are no reasonable and crucial interventions by the state. The fact is, if you only look at the children's situation, the infant mortality, Pakistan is the highest among the nations of the world, and infant mortality is stands despite of all the scientific development the world has made. Out of 1074 infant die in Pakistan. Then a very, very important figure, despite of being making promise to the world on Millennium Development Goal, and then we have also made promises on the Sustainable Development Goal to make sure the 100% primary education. Still yet 22.8 million children who are between the age of 5 to 16, they are out of school, and they are the most vulnerable. This is the most vulnerable age so far the child abuse is concerned, because 5 to 16 is the age. Now researchers tell us that the most of the victim of child abuse, they fall in this age group. So similarly, another very disappointing fact is estimated 11 million children in Pakistan, they are involved in labor work. 6 children on average per day, they are sexually abused in Pakistan, as per the renowned reliable reports, in which 53% girls and 47% boys are reported to be the victim. So this is the situation with the Pakistan. While we talk about, particularly while we talk about child abuse, before I quickly come on that, so far Pakistan promises are concerned. So Pakistan is a signatory of many important conventions of the world that also include UNCHR in 1990, which yes stated parties to take all appropriately legislative, administrative, social, and educational measures to establish formal child protection structures, among other things, and to safeguard children from all form of abuse, exploitation, and violence. So we are signatory of such important conventions. However, in Pakistan, small initiatives and organizations exist at government level, at private level, and what we really lack is a holistic and systematic approach to child protection. Being a federation, we have provinces and then we have territories, and each of these things, they have their own structures. So there is the harmony is missing. There is a scarcity of harmony among the federation, provinces, and territories about the important legislation and implementation related to the child right, and especially to the child abuse. Next, please. Um, this is a slide which can tell you the working of the child protection system in Pakistan. So you can see we have a federating unit. Our federation is called Islamabad. It is also the capital of the city, and there the state organization, there the state makes important laws related to child protection. So all laws are made in the federation unit, at the Senate and the National Assemblies that exist in the Federation, and these laws are supposed to be accepted and taken by all these provinces, including Punjab, KPK, Sindh, and Balochistan. So far, the child protection system in Punjab is concerned. After adopting all the laws, the Punjab, which is the largest province of Pakistan, um, it has a social welfare Home Department, Child Protection and Welfare Bureau system. So it has a governmental um, umbrella that works for the children, that works for the child protection, and they are called the Child Protection and Welfare Bureau. And in another province, KPK, which is known as Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, the current Prime Minister of Pakistan belongs to that province. So they also have the Child Welfare, so Child Protection and Welfare Commission. Sindh, which is the second largest populated province of the world, sorry, of the Pakistan, it also has a child welfare, social welfare system, which include a child protection policies, but in some district, not in the whole of the same. And then also comes the Balochistan, which is the largest province in terms of the land, not in terms of the population, that is Punjab. So Balochistan is the largest province in terms of the land. It also have a child welfare system, but only one. It has a child welfare agency by the government, but only one child protection unit in Quetta. So if you look at only at this point that Balochistan has many cities, the only child protection unit exists in Quetta, which is one of the city of Balochistan. So these are the relatives, and this is the situation among the provinces. So what we can see that there are no formal and mandatory reporting system. There are other child related departments in our country which take care of the health and education. However, there is no systematic response related to a very important field, school management councils. Then we do not have social protection committees and things like that. So, a series of recent high profile cases. If you guys who are listening, if you Google, there have been some very serious cases in the past 1 decade in Pakistan. For example, there was a case that was reported in a Kasur. Kasur is the a city situated to my city, which is 150 kilometers away from my city. I live in Lahore, which is the second largest city of the Pakistan. So there were 100 cases of child sexual abuse reported in the Kasur city, and it was shocking for a nation. As Dr. Granich also pointed out, that internet was involved, and some very the videos of the victims of children, they were made when they were sexually harassed, and they were circulated throughout the world. So that was a very serious case, and the cases, there is not yet any decision by the courts. The cases are still on in the courts of Pakistan. Unfortunately, we do not have yet any serious decision on this case. So this is Pakistan has witnessed some very serious high profile child sexual abuse cases. Next, Dr. Stephen. So one thing is very important, as Professor Dr. Stephen Granick, he was also telling us what makes child sexual abuse difficult to handle. See, Pakistan is a country, as I have already discussed and I have already told you, we lack so many things. The most important thing, lack of education and lack of awareness, that makes child sexual abuse a very complex phenomena in my country. So historically in Pakistan, child sexual abuse is always underrated, and and it is due mainly because to sex, talking on the sex education, it is considered as a taboo in our country. Unfortunately, we are not allowed to talk on this. So that is very important, and that makes child sexual abuse cases very much underreported in our country. Child sexually abused children They are, because they are shy, and it is prohibited to talk on sex. There are no such training to children. So that is why when any child who is abused, he is always reluctant to share this with their parents and children. And that child, he takes blame on himself most of the time. And that, from there, we, the children also have they develop some, psychological issues. So because children always really feel that there may be fear, blame, and disbelief from non-offending adults. Children always believe that nobody is going to believe on them, so they do not share. If parents come to know about any child sexual abuse cases, as it is prohibited, as there is a factor of shyness, as there is a factor of, it is considered as a taboo, now parents are reluctant. It becomes the matter of their prestige, their honor. They hide it. They don't want to tell the law enforcing agencies like we have police, because of the shame and the stigma attached to such incidents. And one very important thing, um, uh, the most of the cases in most of the cases, that is the reason, because of the shame and stigma. However, there is a great majority of Pakistani who do not believe in the justice system, so they lack trust in the criminal justice system of Pakistan. The poor Pakistani, they do not have money. Pakistan is a country which 30% of the Pakistanis, they are living below the poverty line. So people do not have money to pursue their cases in the courts. So these are the very important issues. That is why child sexual abuse is not documented. Some other reasons for the low reporting include lack of knowledge. uh, yes, child protection laws does exist, but people are not aware of it. And then regarding different form of CSA, denial in the name of false PT, Pakistani society being immune, we are unfortunately immune to immorality, and we see child sexual abuse at a very small scale issue. We do not probably take it as a large scale issue. That is the reason. So I've always discussed about, we can move forward. I've discussed about the issues with documentation of the, so what we need, a holistic child protection system with some mandatory reporting, that is pretty much required to deal with the situation. We have to create a valid mechanism through which child sexual abuse need to be addressed. It has been 70 plus years since this country was created, but still we are dealing with our cultural issues, we are dealing with our social issues. I would like to share one thing. Once I met a minister of law. He said we are that much, we are filled, we have too much legislations which have been passed by the governments. We are too much full with the legislation, but the problem is the implementation. And what comes in the way of implementation, whether it is about on child protection or child sexual abuse cases, it is the values, the certain backward customs, the certain backward tradition, the male domination, the lack of awareness of people on these issues, women being a silent, a silent being. Women are not supposed to take decision, men are supposed to take decision. So it's a male dominating society. People do not have good source of income, so that makes things very difficult for the parents to pursue cases and to make sure child sexual abuse, there are less cases on child sexual abuse in Pakistan. So far, when we talk about the public education, there could be some formal and informal education which could help to bring a strong mechanism to reduce child sexual abuse cases in Pakistan. All right, next, Dr. Stephen. So if we talk about the informal All right. Then we have the Holistic Child Protection System, Child Protection and Welfare Bureau, Punjab. Now, here I would like to, before I move towards the formal and informal ways through which the child sexual abuse can be reduced, I would like to talk about a system that does exist, some holistic child protection system in Pakistan. One is the Punjab Destitute and Neglected Children Act, which was made in 2004, and it is very much active in our country. It works on the child protection, and it works on the welfare bureau. It works on the child. There are child protection codes, code of law, and there are bylaws to protect children from abuse. So the bureau, if we talk about the holistic child protection system, there are some very pros, there are some very good things about that bureau, what that bureau is really doing. It is a legislative body. They are rescuing children from the street. They are providing legal services for the children and families. They are working on the reunification. Children who run away from their houses, they are working on them. They keep children in a shelter houses and make sure families meet their children. They work on the reunification. Then they work on the rehabilitation of children, a child protection. There is also a child protection helpline, telephonic helpline that exists. Residential care, they provide shelter, food, and schooling to the children. Then they work for the psychological counseling, and then mass awareness of children, and then mass awareness of child abuse and exploitation issues. So these are the upside. Now there are also some downside. That bureau, that legislative body, it do not have a proper child protection case management system. So there the problem lies. If bureau do not have a child protection case management system, that is a big issue. Also, that bureau, they cannot interfere, they cannot intervene in the private life of children and families in the area of child sexual abuse. So the bureau can work on street children, but bureau are not supposed to work for the children who are working somewhere within the household. For example, I live in a house, and I hire a 12, 13 years old boy or girl. He works for me. Bureau is not allowed to come to my home and see the situation of children. So that is a very important part, that why people are hiring young children to work for their household, and bureau cannot intervene in the private life of children and families. So they can only work on the street children. So bureau is not fully adherent to the child CRC in its procedures of child rescue, custody, and rehabilitation. So we can say the access of the bureau is limited. That is why its working is also limited. They can only work on the children who are freely moving on the streets. They cannot see children who are hired by the big families and they are working as a child labor in the factories, in the houses, or somewhere else. So when we talk about the formal education regarding CSA, school management councils at each school, they are there to ensure community participation, to develop liaison between school administration and parents, and to discuss child academic, psychological, and emotional problems. Punjab Curriculum and Textbook Board, our textbook, they have already developed. So far, the mechanism, it does exist, but then I've talked about the implementation. So we have a mechanism that textbook and curriculum, it has developed child protection curriculum that has been introduced now in the recent times in the schools of Punjab. So the informal education that the Bureau is doing, it is a child protection helpline. Then we also see sometime mass awareness campaign on the electronic media. Then we have the street theaters, workshops, seminar. Children Day is celebrated everywhere with great zest and zeal, but unfortunately, the hidden issues are always, you know, they are not highlighted by the authorities.
Dr. Omer, we're
Yes, we have the
doing a
conclusion
phenomenal
now.
job, but we're kind of getting on time for questions. So
We have a conclusion. Dr.
Just
Stephen.
basically, whatever slides you think are important that are left, go for it, because we want to give a couple minutes at least for questions, okay?
I'm done. I have told you what Child Protection Bureau is doing. Now you need to conclude it.
Should I go ahead and do the conclusion?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just say one thing, and I think to put things in a cultural context. I don't want people to think that because we're presenting problems about the system in Pakistan, that it reflects on everything that is going on there. I have to say that when I went to Pakistan, it was basically it was a highlight of all my travel. The culture, essentially, with India is the oldest in the world. The people in Pakistan, which are so represented by Dr. Omer, are the most gracious, loving people I've ever experienced on the planet. And I say that with sincerity, okay? All countries developed and developing have issues. So I think it's important to note that, when we listen to the Western media, there are a lot of stereotypes, there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of misrepresentation of the Muslim religion. But if you actually have an opportunity to go to Pakistan, you will be very impressed by the culture, the things going on, the way people treat you. So I want to emphasize that. I can't emphasize that more. That it's like Dr. Omer will ground me. When she talked to my students, there was a book by Malala, and my students were talking about Malala this because it was the orientation book for freshman seminar. And I just want you to keep an open mind to what is going on in South Asia. I think it's really important. So to conclude, it is an issue within Pakistan. There are issues of development. There are issues of social stigma. There are issues of a patriarchal society. And these things really challenge what is going on as far as effectively addressing child sexual abuse in Pakistan. As aptly said by Dr. Omer, there are efforts, there are signatories to various legal agreements, but there needs to be continued effort to bring about the protection of children. Certainly, within any society, this is not acceptable. So hopefully what will happen is that there will be continued efforts to create a holistic, efficient, and effective method as deemed by the standards of international agreements. So at this point, I am going to stop sharing, and I am going to ask if people have questions. And it would be better, given that we don't have a lot of time, to just, go ahead and do it through Zoom. Any questions?
I have a question. In the beginning, there was a slide that said that about 6 children on average per day are sexually abused in Pakistan. And there was a graphic about that being like 53% of girls and I think 47% of the boys. So is this the reported number of victims? Like, do they estimate that that number may actually be higher? Or is that the number that they're working with that they think is accurate?
Go ahead, Dr. Omer.
Yeah, there is a very renowned organization that is working on child rights system in Pakistan, and many government officials they rely on their data. It is known as Sahil, Sahil. If you are interested, so these figures I have drawn from their website as they are working on the children. So, so these are the real figures that 6 children on average every day, and these are the reported cases, those who are reported in the media, in the newspapers. There are number of unreported cases which are not reported. So when we say 6, these are the reported cases.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Other questions, please, because this is a phenomenal opportunity for you to ask about what is going on in Pakistan that you will not get through, just reading the media or newspaper. Any questions that you have?
I have one other question as well.
Go forth,
Um,
please.
Dr. Omer was talking about Pakistan society being immune to immorality. What exactly does that mean?
When my counterpart, when Dr. Tahira, she made that part of presentation, and morally, I was not supposed to change that line. I said that, but I do not very agree with that phrase. It is when I say, when Dr. Tahira probably meant about this phrase which you have just mentioned, it is because of the sensitivity of the child sexual abuse cases, and then relating it to the religious affairs, because religion is a very serious issue. And we unfortunately, people who are not educated in Pakistan, who do not have knowledge even on education, on religion, they relate everything with the religion. So and so much happenings, so much cases are reported every day that maybe we are prone to it. That is what she meant when she was writing it. That was her part, and she made it. I read it when I was preparing for the presentation. I thought sometimes stopped and I wanted to change it, but I said it's okay. Let us tell the world that this is happening, and yes, we have become prone to it. We have become insensitive to it because we see so much child sexual abuse cases around us. So maybe this is what I meant.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Does that help answer your question?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, excellent.
I
All
have
right,
a
anybody
question.
else questions through the chat, or questions that you would like to ask?
I think
Shana?
Janae's ready. Janae, I think, is ready to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Sonia, what do you think are some of the ways forward that the Bureau can have an increased authority to really carry out the work that they would like to do?
Yes, I was very much prepared for this question because I'm not very disappointed now, because with the passage of time, things are getting better. One important thing that Bureau will get some power is the amendments in the law. Out of the 4 provinces, 2 provinces of Pakistan, they are now moving towards the amendments in the existing laws on child protection in Pakistan. So that is very important, because sometimes laws are made without knowing the ground realities, or sometimes in a haphazardness. However, while we are in a process of making laws, ground realities are very important, culture contexts are very important. Punjab, as the biggest province of Pakistan, has taken the lead, and they are going to amend very important laws. For example, I was just telling you about Bureau are not allowed to go into the houses of children and see, go into the houses of the people and see if the people have hired the young children for their housework. Now there's going to be a legislation on that, and there's going to be a ban uh, on those people who are hiring young children for their household work. And there was already a law on that household, children who are working in the household, but now they're going to amend it, and this is the bright area I see. And also one thing, with the expansion of the internet, with the expansion of the social media platform, there are number of organizations now working, they are raising their voices, they are collaborating with the government, and children issues are highlighted, and we are moving towards some solution at least.
I
Is
think
it
we have
all
time.
right?
you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Sonia.
You're welcome. I have left my email, like I am always ready to answer, because many few of you, as I said in my presentation, they don't know about my country. Every country, like any other country, it has good things, it has bad things. We are dealing with it, so you are open to ask me anything, direct or to Professor Granick, anything. I'm ready to talk. I'm ready to open up.
Any other questions? We're at the minute mark. Any other questions? All right. Well, we want to thank you for your attentiveness and your excellent questions. And we hope that this will, I'll go ahead and put my email in here. If you want to contact me, or you want to get Dr. Omer's email and have questions, this is the only way we learn about things globally. I've learned a lot, in the past 2 years, from working with Dr. Omer, from working with Dr. Tahira, from going to conferences, from having this experience with working on this international grant. We submitted it. So that's the way you expand yourself, by really extending yourself out. And, this is the way, I've learned a lot just from coming to this conference and listening to what people have to say. Because we are in a global world, if you want to or not, that's the way the world operates now. So we appreciate it, and everybody have a good day at the conference. And we thank so much Dr. Omer from Lahore, Pakistan, taking her time and effort and energy to actually be with us and present this excellent information. So
I'm glad to be a part of this conference. I'm thankful to Dr. Granick for giving me this opportunity, letting me know about the conference, and I look forward, because I think the countries like Pakistan should be, people should come to know about the country. I mean, there should be talks like on serious issues. We have issues, but we also have some good things. We have good culture, traits, as Dr. Stephen has already mentioned. So I think there should be more talk on different topics. And I'm thankful for everyone for accepting me and giving me a chance to talk.
Great. That is a great way to wrap up. Again, just from the conference organizers, I want to thank both of you for coming and joining us. Just a kind of update for our participants. For the next session, we just have one Zoom event going on, and it's going to be in the other Zoom room. This session is called, let me just pull it up. The session is looking at law enforcement and mental health. So looking at best practices regarding that. So if you want to go hop over to that Zoom room, that will be happening at 9:10. But thank you all for joining us. Take care.
Okay, bye. 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 Bye.